When I saw my bank balance that morning, I felt the floor drop out from under me. Every penny I had saved for years, my little safety net, my peace of mind, was gone. And she was gone too. My sister-in-law, the woman I had welcomed into my home temporarily, thinking we were helping family. I remember staring at my phone, willing it to show some mistake. But no, the numbers didn't lie. Thousands of dollars vanished, as if the trust I had in her had evaporated overnight. I sat there on the edge of the bed, the early sunlight slanting through the curtains, feeling a strange, hollow disbelief. My hands shook slightly, and the room seemed unnaturally quiet. Too quiet, like the house itself was holding its breath. I. She wouldn't. She can't. I whispered to myself, a tremor in my voice. And yet, deep down, a pit of fear had begun to gnaw at me. What had I missed? What signs did I ignore? Before this, our life was simple, stable, even predictable. My husband, Rami, worked long hours in IT, coming home tired but always ready with a joke or a gentle word. Our two kids, ages 8 and 10, kept the house lively, chasing each other through the hallway and leaving little evidence of their chaos. Crayons on the coffee table, half-eaten sandwiches on the counter. I had my routine too. Work from home, managing our small online boutique, and keeping the house in some semblance of order. Rami's younger sister, Layla, had always been part of our lives, but in a distant, seasonal way. Visits during holidays, occasional weekends, never more than that. She had always been charming, quick to smile and good with the kids. So when she called to say she needed a place to stay for just a few weeks while she got back on her feet after losing her apartment, I didn't hesitate. Of course, I said, with that smile that masks worry. Your family. You're welcome here anytime. Rami didn't object either. Just don't turn my living room into a dorm, he joked. But I could tell he trusted me to handle it, as he always did. At first, Layla's presence was fine. She was helpful around the house, washing dishes without being asked, bringing over little pastries for breakfast, laughing easily with the kids. She filled our home with a kind of brightness, and I couldn't help but feel relieved that she seemed stable again. But small things began to niggle at the back of my mind. The way she would casually leave the room when I was on the phone. How she always seemed to know when I was checking my bank app but avoided looking at me. Little slips of irritation in her voice, quickly masked with a smile. I tried to dismiss it. She was my family, after all. Maybe I was imagining things. It started with money disappearing from our shared accounts in tiny increments. At first, I didn't notice. $10 here, $50 there. I chalked it up to automatic payments, Rami's small purchases, or a misread balance. But the feeling never left me. That flicker of unease whenever Layla was around my laptop or my phone. Then one evening, I found her lingering near my office, pretending to tidy a pile of papers but glancing at the bank statements lying on the desk. "Oh, are you checking the numbers again?" she asked. Her tone casual, but something in the tilt of her head made me tighten my jaw. "Yes," I said cautiously, "just making sure everything is balanced." She smiled, a little too sweetly. "Of course. You've always been so careful with money. That's why I admire you." Her words should have been comforting, but they weren't. Something about them felt rehearsed, calculated. And then, I noticed she had a way of drifting near my laptop screen as if she wanted a glimpse of my passwords or accounts. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I was being paranoid. After all, she was family. But the nagging feeling grew, like a shadow behind my ribs that I couldn't shake. Then, one afternoon, a small package arrived at the door for her. Unexpected, unannounced. She rushed to open it, hiding the contents from me. I didn't see anything, but I remember the sharp, fleeting look of guilt in her eyes when she realized I had noticed. By now, my stomach churned every time she mentioned bills, savings, or anything financial. It was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else. But to me, it felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted proof. I wanted certainty before shattering the fragile truce of our home. The morning I discovered the missing money, I had woken early, intending to check the bank app before the kids got up. My fingers swiped the phone screen, and my heart stopped at the number glaring back at me. Tens of thousands. My life savings. Gone. And that was when I noticed the empty space where Layla usually slept. Her room was stripped bare, the suitcase missing, the little personal touches she had brought with her. Gone. I remember pacing the room, my mind spinning. Calling Rami didn't help. He was halfway across the city at a work conference, unreachable until noon. Panic clawed at me. How could someone I loved and trusted do this? How could she, my family, betray me so completely? I retraced her steps. Text messages, social media posts, neighbors' sightings. Every trail led to more questions, more confirmation that she had planned this for weeks. The pastries, the laughs, the little helpful gestures, they were all part of a performance. And then I found it. A note tucked into a drawer she had used. A crude apology, or maybe just an acknowledgement of what she had done. No attempt at reason, no attempt at guilt. Just a record of her taking what wasn't hers. I felt rage, disbelief, heartbreak, all in the same heartbeat. I knew I had to confront her. But I couldn't just storm in or scream. I had to be smart. I had to regain control. I spent that day in a fog. Every little noise in the house, the hum of the fridge, the distant barking of a neighbor's dog, even the clatter of my kids' breakfast plates, felt amplified, jarring. I could feel the anger building, but more than that, a sharp, burning resolve. I refused to let this break me. Not like this. I began by retracing her financial trail, quietly, methodically. I called the bank multiple times, requesting transaction histories, trying to find any clue of where the money had gone. Each withdrawal, each transfer felt like a betrayal stretching farther and farther across the city. I took notes in a small leather journal, my hand shaking at first, then steadying with purpose. By evening, I knew enough to act. I couldn't go to the police without a plan. I had to confront her first. I reached out to a mutual friend of hers, a coworker, someone she trusted, and explained the situation without revealing all the details. If she tried to hide, I needed someone who could corner her without turning it into chaos. That night, I stayed awake in the quiet of our living room, the dim lamplight casting long shadows. I pictured how I would confront her. Calm, firm, unyielding. I didn't want a scene. I wanted truth. The next day, I traced her to a small apartment across town, an address I'd pieced together from a series of subtle social media clues. I knocked, my heart hammering in my chest, hands clammy, palms pressed to the cold wood of the door. When she opened it, the surprise in her eyes was immediate, but fleeting. "Layla," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "We need to talk," she smirked, a flash of that old charm I had once trusted, and stepped aside to let me in. I followed, scanning the modest space. Boxes stacked haphazardly, her suitcase from our house now lying open, clothes spilling out like a confession. "I know what you did," I continued, keeping my voice low but steady. "I know about the money." Every penny her smirk faltered. I don't know what you mean," she said, voice trembling just slightly. "I've traced it." "You planned this. The transfers, the withdrawals, you left a trail long before you even came here." My eyes met hers. "I trusted you. My husband trusted you. And you took it. All of it." She went pale, finally. And in that instant, I saw the first crack in her carefully constructed mask. I needed it," she whispered. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." I shook my head. "Family doesn't take what isn't theirs. That's not need. That's betrayal. And you know it." There was silence, heavy and suffocating. Then I laid out my terms. She would return every penny, or I would go to the authorities. No dramatics, no threats. just facts, just justice. It wasn't long before the news spread through the family. I had sent copies of bank statements, timelines, and messages to Rami, my parents, and a few trusted relatives. The shock and disbelief were palpable, and many were furious with her, not just at the theft, but at the audacity of violating family trust so completely. She had no choice but to return home for a confrontation. I met her in the living room, surrounded by the people she had wronged. The tension was almost tangible. Rami's face was stern, a mix of hurt and anger. My mother, usually soft-spoken, stared at her with quiet indignation that felt louder than any words could be. "I'm sorry," she said, voice barely audible. But no one flinched. The apology didn't carry the weight it needed. It was hollow, delayed, and entirely reactive. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Sorry isn't enough. You need to make this right." And she did. Slowly, reluctantly, she handed over the remaining funds, leaving only a fraction missing, money she claimed she couldn't recover. Even that small concession felt like a victory. It was not about revenge. I didn't gloat, didn't scream, didn't humiliate her. The satisfaction came from seeing accountability, from watching her realize that betrayal carries consequences, especially when it's against family. The household breathed a collective sigh of relief, our dignity intact, our boundaries reinforced. After she left for the final time, the house felt different. Lighter, quieter in a good way. The kids laughed without fear of tension creeping into the corners, and Rami held my hand a little tighter when he came home. Slowly, we rebuilt what had been damaged, not just financially, but emotionally. I began to treat my savings, my routines, and my trust with renewed vigilance. Not paranoia, not bitterness, but awareness. Trust is precious. And betrayal, though painful, teaches lessons that are hard but necessary. The hardest part wasn't the stolen money. It was the realization that a person you love could hurt you so deeply. But even that wound, raw as it felt at first, became a source of strength. I learned to listen to my instincts, to act with both caution and courage, and to protect my family while maintaining compassion for those who falter. Months passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. I laughed more freely, cooked more slowly, savored the morning sunlight without the nagging tension I had carried before. The house smelled like fresh bread and coffee again, and though the memory of betrayal lingered, it no longer defined us. It's funny, isn't it? How someone can walk into your home and in a single moment make you question everything you thought you knew about trust and family. I used to believe that family ties were unbreakable, that love could outweigh greed or selfishness. But life teaches you in sharper ways than we ever expect. I often sit in my kitchen now, the kettle whistling softly as I pour my tea, and think about Layla. Not with anger. Well, not much. But with a strange mixture of sorrow and clarity. She made choices that hurt me deeply, but I also learned to see the lines between love, loyalty, and self-preservation. That line is fragile, and sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who test it the most. I rebuilt more than my savings. I rebuilt my sense of safety, my confidence in my instincts, and my voice. When I look at my children playing in the living room, laughing as if nothing ever happened, I feel the weight lift off my shoulders. I know that what I lost in money was far outweighed by what I gained in awareness, dignity, and resilience. And yet, I can't help but wonder, would you have seen it coming? Would you have recognized the warning signs before it was too late? Or would you have, like me, given the benefit of the doubt, only to discover the betrayal in the quiet hours of the morning? Life doesn't always give us second chances with people, but it does give us opportunities to learn. And sometimes those lessons come wrapped in pain. Sometimes they come from people we love the most. So I ask you now, dear listener, how would you act if faced with the same situation? Would you confront the betrayal head-on or let it simmer quietly until it destroys what you hold dear? How would you protect your family, your trust, and your peace of mind while still holding on to your own compassion? If you've ever faced a betrayal like this, by a family member, a close friend, someone you trusted implicitly, you know that the journey isn't simple. It's messy, emotional, and sometimes terrifying. But there is strength in facing it, strength in knowing your worth, strength in reclaiming your life and refusing to let someone else define your boundaries or your dignity. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, or if you've ever had to navigate a similar heartbreak, I invite you to share your experience in the comments. Let's talk about trust, family, and the lessons we learn when those bonds are tested. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real, first-person accounts of family, betrayal, and the slow, sometimes painful road to healing, please subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these deeply human stories, one voice at a time. Remember, family isn't always perfect. People aren't always kind. And sometimes the person you least expect can hurt you the most. But life keeps moving forward, and so must we. We rebuild, we heal, and we learn to trust our instincts. And most importantly, we never let betrayal steal our dignity again.